Hello, everybody. I recently returned from a 4-day vacation to the Northwest. It was kind of a family reunion type thing. We stayed in a little cabin by the lake. It was a great deal of fun. I enjoyed it for a while. But you know, after a couple of days, you can only read so many books. You can only send so many emails, post so many "here I am" pictures on Facebook before I get bored and I get restless. So I was down by the lake, sitting in a chair, pulled out my cell phone, and I just thought I'd play around with it a little bit. And I'd heard about this app called Surrey, but I'd never really hooked up with it before. For those of you who don't know, iPhones have an app called Surrey. You push a button, a voice comes on, a female voice, very pleasant, and whatever question you ask her, she will give you an answer almost instantaneously. So I'm sitting out there, and I thought I would just check her out to see exactly how far she would go. Excuse the expression. God, that just threw me all off. So anyway, I'm sitting out there, and I said, it felt warm. I said, "Surrey, what's the temperature?" She said, 84 degrees Fahrenheit. I said, "Surrey, where am I?" She said, "You're 10 miles from Shelton, Washington." I said, "Surrey, how far away is the moon?" And she said, 276,000 miles from the Earth. And I thought that was just phenomenal that she knew that, especially the personal information about me, where I was and what the temperature was. So I thought I would step the conversation up a notch, and I said, "Surrey, I love you." She said, "I bet you say that to all the Apple products." Once again, I said, "Surrey, I love you." And she said, "I'll get back to you on that." The third time I said, "Surrey, I love you," she said, "Can we get back to work now?" So I switched it around. "Surrey, do you love me?" She said, "You are the wind beneath my wings." Then I said, "Surrey, do you love me?" And she waxed poetic. She said, "Our love is like two shadows kissing that have no hope of reality." And that made me sad. The last time I said, "Surrey, I love you." And she said, "It just isn't meant to be." But I haven't given up. I contact her on a daily basis, and I still love you, Surrey. Honest to God, I felt like I was developing a relationship with this voice on the other end of the line. Whatever I asked her, she had the answer. She had humor. She had connectivity. She was everything that a person could provide for me. So what is the difference? The difference is Surrey does not have consciousness. A consciousness is our ability to be aware of what is going on outside of us and the thoughts and feelings that are going on inside of us, and to have feelings about that. That's what consciousness does. And Surrey doesn't have that. But for us, consciousness is everything. Every single situation that you experience in your life, every circumstance you go through, every thought, feeling, attitude, or perception, everything that you sense is all a result of your consciousness. It is everything. Yet, we don't really know what it's all about or where it came from. There's been over 20,000 papers written on consciousness throughout the years with no answer. Never in the history of humanity has there ever been so much done for such little results. It's a mystery to us. So to help better explain consciousness, I'm going to tell you two stories. And the first is, imagine that you're going to take a trip from point A to point B. You get in your car, it has many wonderful accessories, plus it has a GPS, which is a global positioning system. It tells you where you're at, and you put in where you want to go, and it gives you step-by-step directions on how to get there. So I put in that I want to go to point B. We get in the car, we take off. After a while, GPS comes on and says, in 1 block, turn right on Down Street. Block comes, we turn right on down street, start heading down the road. Everything is going just fine. I'm looking at the scenery. It's beautiful. I'm not worried about getting lost. But all of a sudden, lo and behold, there right in front of me is a huge, dirty, muddy, deep hole, and I run right into it. The tire gets blown out. The wheel gets bent. There I sit in the middle of this hole. I'm angry. I am disturbed. I am depressed. I am fit to be had. So I call a tow truck, take the car off, they fix the tire, everything is fine. But I'm still angry about it. It's still kind of fuming within me. A couple days later, I decide I want to go from point A to point B. So I get in the car, I put in the directions or the location I want to go to, move down the street, the GPS comes on. It says in 1 block, turn right on down street. I turn right on down street, I start moving down the road, and all of a sudden I remember there's a big hole in the road. So as I come up to the hole, I slow down and I go through it very slowly. No flat tire. But the car gets all muddy and it gets all dirty, and I get just as disturbed as I was when I blew the tire out. A couple days later, I decide to do it one more time, go from point A to point B. I get in the car, I'm driving down the road. The GPS says 1 block, turn right on down street. I turn right on down street, and this time I pull right up to the hole and I stop. I'm going to wait for traffic from the other side to clear so I can use that lane to go around the hole. People in front of me are mad. They start honking because I'm slowing things down. Some people are shouting out their windows. But I managed to get down the road without going into the hole. But I'm still disturbed. That's the end of story 1. Story 2, it's the same thing. It's about a journey that you're going to take from point A to point B. And this is the journey of your life. Point A is the beginning. It's the day that you were born. It's the day that you started your journey through life. Point B is the day when your life concludes. It comes to an end. It is over. And hopefully it's been a wonderful journey. Now from point A to point B, what you have is an expansive time. And you call that time your lifetime. During your lifetime, you spend 100% of it interacting with different things around you or within you. You interact with the world around you in some way. You interact with the thoughts and the feelings that are within you. Your entire life is one of interaction. Now, the thing that helps you do this is your consciousness. Your consciousness is like the GPS in your car. It tells you where to go, it tells you what to do, it tells you how to be, it tells you when to be it. Your GPS tells you everything. Your internal biological GPS tells you everything you need to know about taking this journey of life. But the question is, how does it know? How does consciousness know how to direct us and how to tell us what to do and when to do it? Well, the consciousness is made up of 3 functions. The first one, the consciousness has a sensory function. Our senses perceive what is going on around us. It tells us who's there, what's happening, what we should do. The senses then relay that message of what's going on outside of us to the brain, and the brain makes sense out of it. It defines what is happening and comes up with a meaning of what is going on around us. That information is then relayed to the mind, and the mind tells us how we feel about it. So it's very simple. Every single thing you do, every place you go, whatever is happening in your life, you're sensing what is going on, and that perception comes back to the brain. It says, this is what's happening, and then it moves to, this is how I feel about it. Good, bad, happy, sad, indifferent, it doesn't make any difference. The 3 functions of consciousness that create the emotional experience that we have in life. But the question arises, how does consciousness know how to direct us? How does it know to tell us what to do and what not to do? How did it get programmed like that? How can the GPS tell us to turn right on down street in 1 block? It's been programmed to do that. A person or persons program the GPS to give us the answer that will best get us to where we want to go. And it's the exact same thing with our consciousness. It's been programmed. We came into this world, and from the time that we're able to understand what is being said to us, people are telling us who we are. They're telling us what we are. They're telling us how we should be, what we should do, what we shouldn't do. And these sources of programming come from authoritative people in our lives. It comes from the emotional environment of the home that we were raised in. It comes from social interactions that we have with different people. And it comes from the culture and the customs of the community that we're being raised in. So as we're growing up in the first years of our lives, we're getting all of this programming put into us that tells us how to go from point A to B, how to take the journey of our life. But it isn't always easy. Sometimes the information that's programmed into us isn't correct or doesn't benefit us. And the greatest factor in upsetting our lives and disturbing the life experience is that our consciousness has been programmed with fear. And I'm not talking about fear for survival or fear for safety in regards to ourselves or our loved ones. I'm talking about imaginary fears. I'm talking about artificial fears. I'm talking about those fears that serve absolutely no purpose whatsoever other than to disrupt and disturb our lives. And many of you know what I'm talking about. You know, there's the fear of not being liked. There's the fear of what other people will think. There's the fear of not stepping out and trying something new because you think you might fail. There's all these fears that hold us back from life, that tether us and keep us on the sidelines of life rather than going out and truly experiencing all that we are, all that we can be, and all that life has to offer. Fear is a dirty, muddy, deep hole on the path of life. Now then, around the path of life, we're moving down a particular way, something happens, we get upset. Perhaps we run into somebody that just can't be at peace with the person that we are, and there's some criticism, there's some rejection, there might be harsh judgments, and that hurts. That comes from fear. We're moving down the path of life and something happens, a problem arises, some sort of a challenge. We feel inadequate, we feel unworthy because we can't do what we're supposed to do in that particular situation, and that hurts. We feel like we're less than we should be. Artificial fear comes in so many different forms that disrupt our lives, and once again, it shows no purpose whatsoever. So what are we to do? I mean, going back to the trip, the first trip, we were going down the street and we run into the dark, dirty hole in the road. And we seemed to make that better as we went along, but it was still there. It still disrupted our journey. It still didn't serve us or benefit us to go down that road. So what is the problem? The problem isn't the GPS. I mean, it's just been programmed to do what it's supposed to do. It's not the car. It's not the tire. Tires aren't meant to hit hard impact. It's not even the GPS. It's the driver. The driver is making the choice to go down the same road where it knows it's going to run into something or it's going to be engaged in something that disturbs it. And it makes that decision over and over and over again because it's being directed by the program of the GPS to turn right on down street in one block. And it's the same thing for us. We run into the same type of situations that upset us, that hurt us, that create all sorts of pain in our lives, that cause us to strike out at other people, and we do it over and over and over again because the programming within our mind tells us this is how we act. This is how we react. This is the way we roll in situations like this. We get angry. We stand our ground. We fight back. We feel bad. We get hurt. We think that we're unworthy. All of these things happen over and over and over again because we're just blindly following the programming that tells us this is the way you react. Consciousness is everything. Consciousness holds our programming. But human beings have an aspect of consciousness that no other living thing does, and that is self-consciousness. We're the only living creatures on this earth that can be aware of what we're aware of. We can be aware of what we're thinking. We can be aware of what we're doing. We can observe. We can be the witness, so to speak, and watch ourselves go down that same old road, head towards that same old hole, get stuck, get muddy, get dirty, and sometimes even get broke. We can observe ourselves doing that. But we're accustomed to going on autopilot. We're not accustomed to observing ourselves. We're not accustomed to witnessing what we're going on. Oftentimes, probably every person in here has gotten to a point where you've done something, you've blown up, you become too dramatic, something has happened, and after time has passed, what on earth was I thinking? And then it's pretty clear that you're off base. So we're going to try to move that what on earth was I thinking to what on earth am I thinking? Bring it into the present moment. Just as if you pick up a hot coal and it burns your hands, you know instantly that that hurts, that it's not good for you, and you drop it and you throw it down on the ground. It's the same thing with all those feelings of fear, however they might be, whatever they're dressed in. As soon as they start to come upon us, we can feel them. It doesn't feel good. Sometimes it hurts. Sometimes it makes us sick. Sometimes it makes us sad. Sometimes we just want to give up and run away. But we can feel it, and when we feel it, in the very early stages of it coming on, it's just like turning down that street and seeing that hole ahead of us. We stop. Stop immediately. And turn around and take a different road. It's called mindfulness. And mindfulness comes to us naturally, but it takes practice because we are so used to being guided and directed and told how we should live our lives and what we should do that we don't listen to ourselves. It truly is the joke of the universe to think that God would give each and one of us consciousness, but everybody else gets to program it but us. We need to take back our minds, take control of our minds, be aware of what's going on inside there, and begin to move down a pathway where we know that we're not going to get hurt, that we're not going to get upset, that we're not going to get disturbed. We need to move away from the fear that comes down upon us. Now, as we're moving down the road of life and we run into a situation or a circumstance that's upsetting or disturbing, what's the problem? It's not life. Life just is what it is. It's been going on for 4 billion years. So it's not going to change. It's not other people. Other people are just what they are. You know, they're going through their own stuff. They're trying the best they can. They're working with their programming that they received from somebody or something as they were growing up. So other people aren't the problem. It's not the problems and challenges we face. And it's not even us. For we're students of life. We're living, we're learning, we make mistakes, we fall down, we get hurt, we get back up. See, the problem is fear. And fear is just another thing in the universe. You have fear and you have love. Fear is the problem, the artificial fear that serves no purpose. And we have the power to choose whether we want it in our life or not. It's just that simple. We don't need to go to therapy. We don't need to go to seminars. You don't even need to read books. It's just that simple. Do I want this artificial fear in my life anymore? And if you decide not to, you stop it and you drop it as soon as you sense it coming into your life. And you only have to do that for a short period of time before the mind or the brain begins to get accustomed to the fact that fear has no place inside here anymore. It's not going to be a part of my life. No matter how real it seems, fear is no longer going to occupy my consciousness. If you begin to do that, you will discover fear becomes more and more manageable. You're not going to end up down in the rut broken. You're not going to have to slow down and slowly go through it. You're not going to have to kind of skirt around it because you're on a different road where it doesn't exist. Consciousness is everything. When we talk about the untethered soul, we're talking about releasing that which ties us up, which binds us, which holds us down, which holds us back, which in 100% of the cases, it's fear. We're afraid to be ourselves. We're afraid to move into life. We're afraid of what other people might think. We're afraid of all those things that have hurt us for so long, but they don't have to anymore. We're free to move beyond it. So as we go into meditation, just take a moment to stop and think about perhaps the biggest fear you have that causes you more displeasure than anything else, that disrupts your life more than anything else, that causes you more hurt or pain than anything else. Just think about that and take a look at it and say, what is it exactly? It's nothing other than a figment of your imagination. It's nothing but a misprogrammed consciousness that can be corrected. So we'll now move into meditation. As we move into meditation, I invite you to take a deep breath. Just hold it for a moment or two, and then slowly exhale. And take another deep breath, and this time when you exhale, feel your entire body becoming relaxed. Now for just a moment, let us sit in the stillness, in the quiet, and the peace. As I speak these words, please make them your own and say them back to yourself. I have the power to choose. I choose to be happy. I am happy to be alive. I am happy to be me. I am happy to be here now.
fearlessly. I move forward on my path of life to live the life I choose to live. And so it is.
I am free.